Moist Critical, aka Charlie, a very huge and prominent content creator on YouTube and other areas around the internet, he posted this video about 4 hours ago titled, Solo Leveling is a must watch. It is currently 19th on trending for gaming for whatever reason. It's kind of strange. I mean, Solo Leveling isn't a game. Well, actually, correction, it is a game, but it is weird because obviously he's talking about anime. But anyways, regardless of how funky the algorithm can be, it's very clear that there is a lot of conversation around solo leveling. And with any large conversation around solo leveling and how popular something becomes, not just solo leveling, but anything, always negativity soon is to follow. And it has definitely gotten increasingly more prominent, I would say, in the last few weeks, and even I have kind of butted heads with people that want me to outright dislike the series because obviously it is not the most well-written story of all time, and I'll get into all the critiques in a moment. But what I'm going to get at is that the reason why I'm making this video is because I want to talk about the popularity of solo leveling. I want to talk about the negativity of solo leveling. Is it, you know, deserving of the hype that it currently has, and does it truly set a new standard for anime? So, one thing in particular that put this video in my mind and on my radar, I saw this. This was entering into my feed all day today. I saw people talking about solo leveling and basically upset that Moist Critical, he made this video about solo leveling, talking about solo leveling in a positive way, talking about how, it's really fun, he enjoys it, it's beautiful art and animation, you know, you get the gist. You know, it's the typical praises and stuff that you hear people say about solo leveling. And regardless if you disagree with that or not, a lot of people do feel that way about the series. And obviously with Charlie kind of talking about it and bringing it up to more of the mainstream audience, people that might not even watch anime, you know, people are getting a little bit upset with it, but also they're thinking that solo leveling isn't a must-watch series. And I've now butted heads with a few people as well about this entire topic, and let's get right into that. So, yesterday, I made a video talking about the latest episode, praising it. If you watched my video yesterday, you most likely know what I was talking about. You knew I was talking about how the standard for anime is definitely getting higher and higher. The bar has been raised, and even if you dislike solo leveling and you don't care for it in any way, shape, or form, the animation is very impressive. And A1 Studios has done a fantastic job with the product, and it says a lot because yes, they have made some good stuff as of late in the last like few years, 4 or 5 years, but like I said, way over a decade ago, a long time ago, they used to have a lot of bad anime, and a lot of people did not like it when they picked up some stuff. But obviously, that overall perception of them has changed, and people view them in a very positive way. And overall, very happy for A1 Pictures. I'm glad to see that. But what I'm trying to say is in yesterday's video, and why it's relevant to what Charlie's talking about, I talked about how I feel the animation of the solo leveling episode was reaching into the same tier, the same bracket, so to speak, as the Saitama versus Boros fight. I made this post yesterday actually talking about it, and a lot of people, I not like a lot, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands, but there is a noticeable size that legitimately is upset, not just with me, but a lot of people in the solo leveling community being happy about yesterday's episode, being happy to enjoy good art and animation, and I have people legitimately upset that I dare say the animation is good. And the funny thing is, I even pointed out in my comment up here on the top right, a lot of people that actually are genuinely trying to criticize the episode are actually people a part of the Sakuga community, aka the people that are, I don't like to say this because they're not all this way, but a lot of the Sakuga community is a little bit snobbish or egotistical. They feel like they're better than everyone because they know a lot more about art and animation, and because they have this perception of art and animation, and they might know more things, they get this atmosphere like, yeah, I'm better than all of you, and so anytime someone even dares talk about something in a positive way, and they might know a little bit more details, they instantly say, nah, you're wrong, you're factually wrong, you're not a good person, whatever, you get the point. And that's basically what I've been seeing, not just with my post, but a lot of people's posts. And it's also happening now to, you know, Moist Critical. People are criticizing him because he dare talk about the episode in a positive way, the art and animation in a good way, because obviously solo leveling to a lot of people is just slop. Now, there is some criticisms to be had for that, and once again, I will get into it, but it's very fascinating just seeing how childish people are being for people just enjoying anime. That's the crazy thing. Because if I was outright, and even Charlie was outright like trash talking other series, like, you know, oh, this anime is absolutely garbage tier in comparison to Solo Leveling's episode, I understand why people would be upset about that. But the fact that, you know, Charlie, myself, and many others on the platform talk about the episode in a very positive light, like I said, it's childish. It really is childish just to be upset with someone enjoying something. Anyways, with that being said, let's talk about the popularity, and does it deserve it? Is it a new standard? Let's get into all these details next. So I think I'm going to let Charlie here say a few things before I really say my piece on the matter, because I think what he says here is very valid, and it brings up a lot of problems that people that do not like Solo Leveling actually have with the series. So listen to him real quick.
Hype level. Now, while I think Solo Leveling is a must-watch, I don't think it's a perfect show. I think there's quite a few valid complaints, especially when it comes to Season 1. So, Danny has been watching Solo Leveling since all of this hype around it. He wanted to get in and see if it's as good as it is, you know, as people lead him to believe it is. So he just started it recently, and he's really liking it, but he had some, like, really valid complaints that I also said about Season 1 in particular, where there's not really any characters outside of Sung Jin-woo. Like,
that is a criticism even myself, as a reader of the actual novel and the webcomic, the manhwa, have talked about. I have talked about how most of the characters within the story of Solo Leveling are very cardboard-like. They do not have much character. Now, there is some that are better than others, yes. And Season 2 has tried to do a better job, which, most critical here, he talks about. He does talk about how Season 2 tries to make you care a little bit more about the S-class, you know, hunters. But in reality, all the other characters are very non-important. They're really not that important, or you don't really care about them too much in comparison to our MC Jin-woo, but also the Shadows, his actual summons. And I think that complaint in general is a very valid complaint, because the story might be interesting, but it is very average, and the characters aren't really anything you could write home about and say that there is a lot of depth to them. However, just because they don't have a lot of depth to them and they're not like multi-layered, tiered Hunter x Hunter level or Berserk level characters, doesn't mean that you can't connect with them. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy them, and it does not mean that you have to hate them because they don't have multi-layers of depth. But what I'm trying to say is that the criticisms against the characters and stuff like that is completely valid. And hell, even the story as well is completely valid. Any complaints against it? Because let's look at really the cold, hard facts. And once again, Charlie even talks about this too in this video. Solo Leveling, it's mainly a power fantasy. It's Jinwoo, you know, getting stronger, and at first in Season 1, he struggles. He gets close to death, he's fighting back and all that, and you see this this person that is like very weak actually becoming powerful, and it's a nice progression of power fantasy. But now with Season 2 has been more or less where Jinwoo doesn't really have much of a struggle. There is sometimes he does slightly, but not really. Not like Season 1. And it's very clear how overpowered he has become, and the overall threat and the sense of emergency and the worry for the MC is not really there anymore, which gets into the next level of writing. And he actually mentions this One Punch Man. He doesn't dive into it too deep, but it is a very relevant thing that is important to Solo Leveling. When you get a character that is so powerful, there comes a point now to where you have to be a very good writer to utilize that said character, especially to make the story still engaging. Which is why I think One Punch Man's offer, decided to make Saitama, yes, as the main MC, kind of sidelined a little bit and really focus on the supporting cast more, because they can still tell very interesting stories within the world, and Saitama comes in to wrap up the big bad that some might not even be aware of. And I think that even though it's used as a gag and comedy, there is some serious storytelling there, and it's used in such a way to where the world still feels like there's some threat, there's emergency going on, and people can still die. And in this case, Soul Leveling has not really shown that element yet. There is some emergency that has been shown in the latest episodes with the S ranks, fighting up against the Ant King, but it's still not to the same level as what you would see in One Punch Man. Not saying they need to be identical, but the comparison here is that when you get a character so powerful, there comes a point to where there is not anything you have to worry about. You're more or less just there for the fights. And in this case, I feel like that's what a lot of people really are there for when it comes to soul leveling, which gets into the next topic. Is that a bad thing? It depends on how you view it. I mean, the argument to be had here is that a lot of people think that soul leveling does not deserve its beautiful art and animation because it really doesn't have a good story. It doesn't have a good character, or good characters, plural, and a lot of people think it just doesn't deserve it. And regardless of your personal opinion on that, and even if you was to humor that and agree with it, the thing is that it is still fun to watch. Now, not everybody's going to have the same opinion on that, but I have personally enjoyed watching it. It's not a series that is super in-depth and has a lot going on. It's just fun. It's fun. That's it. It's a fun, beautifully animated anime. And those that are complaining about soul leveling, I think should have the same type of energy towards Demon Slayer. Because if we're wanting to argue pretty colors, pretty art and animation and effects, that same energy should be applied to Demon Slayer. That's all I'm saying. And I want to make sure I go on record here. I have never, ever tried to slander Demon Slayer to a certain high degree. I've always praised it. I've said, regardless of your feelings on it, accept it for what it is. It's very popular. People enjoy it. People love it. That's just what it is. And it does have beautiful art and animation. Can't argue that point. That's the truth. That is the facts. So what I'm saying is that in general, people are being childish. Extremely childish right now. The Sakuga community is upset that people dare enjoy this series. They're upset that people dare try to say that animation has, definitely evolved a lot since the 2010s, and that, a lot of anime, like for instance, like JJK, and then now Soul Leveling, is reaching into the same tier and bracket as like maybe Boros versus Saitama. They're upset with those comparisons, but it's the truth. Anime has gotten different. It's evolved a lot since then, and animators have grown, techniques have changed since then, and you have people that, don't need an all-star 10 out of 10 team to be able to produce what was once actually an incredible feat. I'm not putting down that feat. I'm not. Don't get my words crossed here. The feat that One Punch Man Season 1 accomplished was insane. That deserves all the praise and love, and why it's such a legendary standard for anime. But what I'm saying is the 2020s has shown us that a lot of anime is stepping into that level. They are getting extremely close to that level, and a lot of people that work on these anime that produce these scenes aren't even like people that are 10 out of 10 calling all these veterans in throughout the entire industry, calling in favors. It's just people pulled together to make an episode. And like I said, it's becoming more common. And regardless of your stance on that, that's the facts. That is. It's the truth. You see a lot like modern marvels of animation art nowadays in the 2020s than you did in the 2010s. I'm not saying there isn't great moments in 2010s. There is some fantastic stuff. But I'm saying there definitely is a lot more that is becoming increasingly common to that level. But I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. Go watch Soul Leveling if you haven't. It might not be the best 10 out of 10 series of all time, but it's fun. And that's all that matters. Love you guys. Chibi out.